Buongiorno, grazie. First of all, I want to thank the organizers to invite me to share some ideas with you. I was very pleased when I was asked to talk to you by the end of the morning about the future. That easy topic, which is the future. Okay, so thank you very much for suggesting me that topic, and I will try to do my best. Ronald was mentioning the insecure framework. Let's try to move in a sort of a flexi-security. Alea jacta est. Let's see. Okay, right. We are placed in a postmodern, liquid, risk-changing, solipsistic society, and I can add perhaps an informational society as well, and some other qualifiers. Okay, right, that's true. But there's a temptation when we talk about this context, and Professor Sultana has done it in a better way than me, so we are now very focused on this context. There's a temptation of considering that each individual must become a sort of a superhero in this context, okay? So if everything is changing, if reality is liquid, if there's no roots, if we have risks all over our life, all over the world, if everything is changing, if we are alone, solus ipse, then we have to be superheroes. And education must try to train these superheroes to face this type of context. But that's not true, in my opinion at least. The first thing I would like to share with you is that if we have to look at the future, we do not have to follow this idea. We do not have to fall in this temptation. Because most of the time, or some of the times, the lack of participation of population segments in social life, economy, work, etc., is simply because of the lack of rights, because of the lack of access to most of the facilities that can, as the word says, facilitate the participation, work, etc. So in other terms, sometimes there are a lot of barriers that we, the adult world, built like walls, which enable people to fulfill their challenges, their aims, their illusions, etc. So let's be very, very careful on placing all the responsibility, as Professor Sultana was saying, in children or in school, because the adult world as a whole is building unaffordable walls and barriers for these children. This is the first idea. So how can we describe or define the goals and challenges for guidance for the future? Which are those guidance? In my opinion, we still have a problem of access. Access to facilities that permit that important segments of population must have opportunities, learning opportunities, let's say. So access to the kindergarten, and research proves that those who has gone to the kindergarten will have more opportunities and more possibilities in the future than those who hasn't gone, especially those coming from deprived environments. For example, access to after-school activities, not in order to fill all the timetable with activities, but you know what I am talking about. In order to build connections, to build networks, to know your environment, etc. Access to support to study, if you have difficulties. Family support, access to family support, or access to lunch, for example. This is still a problem in my country due to child poverty. So there are children that half of the academic course, they simply don't have lunch. The first challenge is access. And it's still, unfortunately, it's still a challenge. Second, it was already said, equity and excellence. We cannot define quality in guidance nor in education if we don't talk about equity and excellence, but I would like to underline equity, especially. So somehow excellence for everybody. Third, of course, educational achievement. What are we talking about? We have to try that everybody will achieve the curriculum and the requirements of the educational system. Cooperation, that means collaboration between or among professional agents inside school and outside school, making networks, etc. And finally, and they are not necessarily in order, maybe access is the first, of course, but the other ones can be interchangeable, empowerment and participation. If we look to the future, we have to look for participation, empowering people to enable them to participate at school, in the community, in society. And this concept for me is very, very well linked with the concept of citizenship. All these ideas must be considered in a systemic vision in which everything is interconnected in a dynamic socio-political and economical context. Of course, changing, solipsistic, and whatever. That's true. In this setting and with these challenges, guidance has a lot to do. Guidance still has a lot to do. But if we look to the future, we can consider many other things. But the first ones to be considered, in my opinion, are those. Without those, we cannot go further. Okay, so which could be the aims and goals, and how can we build aims and goals for this? I think that it's important, looking to the future, to try to build community projects and school projects, both school projects and community projects. And I like very much one of the examples from a New York school. They had a slogan, a motto, which was high school and beyond. So the whole school was oriented to promote possibilities of success for everybody. And it was condensed in this motto, in this logo, high school and beyond. We all work in order to promote that each of these children will arrive to high school and beyond. Because in my country, some guidance practitioners, especially in secondary school, still consider that if a person age 16 wants to go to find a job, it's okay. And it's not okay. And I don't have time to talk about that. But I think this type of slogan expresses that idea of a whole school project in a very simple way. It's very difficult to find a slogan for a school, but also for a community. We need these kind of things. Why? Because this brings us together into a shared, known, and luckily, participatory project in which we are all on. So first, let's try to find projects. In my country, in most of primary schools, if you go and you say, okay, which is your guidance project? They would say, our what? There's no guidance at school. No, that's not true. There's a lot of guidance, but chaotic, informal, and unknown. They are guiding without knowing, which is even worse. Second level, working through projects, which are linked with the environment and the context. So everything you do inside school, from this methodological point of view, let's say, must be linked with what is happening around you. So when you teach mathematics, you are teaching the mathematics in the world, and you are using mathematics to understand the world. And if you know mathematics, you better understand the world. And this happens the same with any of the areas of the curriculum. So subjects, the curriculum, the work you do at school, and all the guidance projects must be first projects. That means a process which a known beginning and a process and a known ending linked with the environment and the context. And finally, I agree with Professor Sultana. It's very difficult to have work projects or vocational projects. But in my opinion, it's very important to have projects. And I like it very much, that slide with those all types of arrows. Because one of the problems of our Catholic Christian society, to which I belong, is that when we consider projects, we consider an only kind of project, a one single type of project in which you have a beginning, then a straight line, and a definite ending. And that's not happening that way in reality. Project means that you try to build some idea of what do you want to do, and probably during the process you will give up, you will modify, you will transform, you will learn, you will create other projects. But it's important to have a project, because otherwise there's only chaos, in my opinion. So assuming that a project is not a definite thing, like the plan of a building, in which you specify everything which must be done in order to have this, but the idea of project is the idea of anticipating somehow. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And what for? And what are you going to do to fulfill this aim? In my opinion, this is also important. And I would like to stress that not only personal projects are important, but group projects. And even more in this solus ipse society. Even more in this individualistic society. We need shared projects. Even more when we talk about career guidance, in which sometimes we think that if we have information, we have to hide this information to the others. So if I know about a job opportunity, this information is only for me. And that's a mistake. Because in an informational society, if you share information, you multiply exponentially the available information. So group projects. Of course, all this interacts. So if you have a school project, you can have this, this way of working inside class and outside the classes, and you have these personal projects, and all this is linked. Okay, what about the curriculum? The ordinary curriculum. If we look to the future, what can we do with the curriculum? Are they two separate things, not facing each other? So can we talk about a guidance curriculum and an ordinary, a training, let's say, curriculum? Are there two realities, different realities? I don't know, but I'm sure that we have to talk about guidance infusion. Maybe we can have a guidance curriculum, but we need to have guidance infused in the ordinary curriculum. And I like very much this image. I use it in Barcelona as well. Because the hot water represents the curriculum, and then the tea bag, the guidance bag, expresses that you are not adding more hours, but you are changing the quality of that water. And in my opinion, this is very important, because that means that you are involving all the teaching staff, all the community. Because it's the whole community's duty to promote guidance among children. Next. Okay. We have infused guidance in the curriculum, but we have to make clear that the most important thing is learning. We can have a marvelous curriculum, but the most important thing is to promote learning. So I've erased the other word which appeared in a similar sentence used by Bill Clinton's consultant in the first presidential elections, when he said, "It's the economy, stupid." You remember that? So maybe you can use the same sentence. It's the learning. We have to promote learning. If they don't learn, nothing has been done. So deep learning, of course, significative learning. But all our aims are dedicated, or must be dedicated, to promote deep learning in who? In everybody, not only in students. Of course, the learner is the main character in this plot, in this film, in this story. But who is the learner? Everybody is the learner. Mainly the kids, of course. But teachers also learns, families also learns, and the community also learns. I like very much that image of learning communities, not only professional learning communities, but learning communities in a wide sense, in which through distributed leaderships, everybody can contribute and everybody can learn. And the way of guessing or no, the way of checking if everybody is learning can be done through two very simple questions. And this comes from a project with the OECD, in which we were working about innovative learning environments. We went to classes and we asked, what are you doing? And why? Or what are you doing, what for? And through these very simple questions, you can realize if they are aware of what are they doing and what for or not. We have to promote learning. And this is linked, in my opinion, with this metacognition and with all these issues. Because otherwise, it's not deep learning. It's just memorizing or I don't know what. But what are you learning this? And why? A typical answer was, okay, I am learning mathematics because now it's 10 o'clock and it's mathematics time. Or now I'm doing this exercise because the teacher has set us to do this exercise. But on the other hand, some pupils said, I am writing this sentence because this summer I will be able to write letters to my parents. Well, not letters, emails. He or she knew perfectly that he or he was learning something which would be helpful and significant for him or for her. You know? So learning. Because sometimes when we talk about career, we start considering a lot of other topics and subjects and ideas which are not facing the core of the whole thing, which is learning. Almost finishing. I think it's very important to consider the non-participants. Participation is a didactic principle, of course. So what happens with those who are not participating? Do we know anything about them? Who are they? How many are they? Where are they? Because physically they can be there, but only physically. But where are they? And what do they say? Because they don't participate. And what do they need? And who am I talking about? First about children, because before dropping out, they are there without being there. But I'm talking about the families as well. Where are they? Because they come to school every day. But where are they? And I'm talking about the community. Where's the community? I think it's very important to talk and to consider the non-participants. And in this type of project, considering school failure and dropouts, it's very, very important to consider this at early stages. So there are no dropouts probably at the first course of primary school, but they are non-participants in the first year of primary schools. How many are they? Sometimes we don't know. It's a gray matter, not defined, not quantified, but it's there. And these non-participants will be next non-participants in society, etc. And if we do not do anything, we are starting to build that wall, that barrier. Especially, I would like to stress the family role and the community role. To avoid this, to return them to sender. We have to pay attention to what families do, what families think, and what families want. And we have to collaborate together in this process, because guidance is a shared process. So we cannot guide a student by the end of the stage or without the family or without considering the community. Okay, a short decalogue to sum up. First, right, it's complex. We are facing a very, very complex society, but there's still a lot to do. In education, we have to be optimistic. So, okay, let's do complex analysis of reality, but let's promote active involvement and awareness on guidance. Second, not superheroes, please, but active citizens. Third, careful with the barriers, because we, the adults, the establishment, the system, are building these barriers. It's not the individual's responsibility, as it was already said. 4, learning through projects. Because the concept of project, for me, is still valid. In that sense, something that you can modify, something that can have disruptions in the middle, something that can be no linear, but something necessary, after all. 5, infuse, please. Guidance must not be something separate from the curriculum. And guidance is still not a separate activity, not only in school, but outside school. Guidance, it's something that conforms one of the main processes that will help you to develop your projects, your aims, and everything. And I think it's very important to stress that concept of lifelong learning, but also that concept of lifelong and life-wide guidance. Meaning that guidance is not only a lifelong process, which is, but also a life-wide process, which happens not only inside school, but in extra school activities, at home, when you watch TV, etc. 6, who is not participating? Let's pay attention to that. Let's quantify that. Let's do something about that. 7, the families, one step beyond. Families must be there. Their responsibility, but their contribution is crucial, is essential, especially in primary school, but not only. 8, the school as a learning community, and the school in the learning community, which is a wider structure, which must be considered. 9, write what you do, explain it, and share it. In my country, there's a lot of interesting projects. Most of them are not being written. So when you want to share something, when you want to learn a little bit more, the only way is like the ancient groups, oral tradition. Tell me, what are you doing? We have to write. We have to write a little bit more. Not very extended documents, useful documents, but we do need these documents, online documents if possible. And 10, evaluate your guidance processes and results. Not only the processes, but also the results. Both outcomes and outputs. So not only what do you want to achieve with your actions, but those things that you are willing to contribute to, which are not only your own responsibility, but you need to have data on that. So looking at the future, you have to try to have an idea of the whole thing based on evidence. And a postscriptum, if you don't like this decalogue, change it. Thank you.